A good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Erev Shabbos, Parasha Shmini, Erev Shabbos, Mevorach Machodesh, Erev Shabbos HaChodesh, Erev Rosh Chodesh, marching towards Pesach. There's many incredible things in this week's Parasha. One of the incredible things in this week's Parasha is the reaction of Aharon to the death of his children, of Nadav and Avihu. And Aaron's reaction, Vayidam Aaron, he was totally silent, which could be understood as a coldness on the part of Aaron to the death of his children. And if we look in our history, we look at people who suffered the loss of children. Our great sages, they said something. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, when he saw what was happening to Rabbi Akiva, he said something. He turned to God, he said, Zu schara, zu Torah, zu schara, this is Torah, this is its reward. He wasn't silent. So what does it mean that Aaron was silent and considered a great thing, was rewarded for his silence? How could his silence have been productive? So we have to look at silence, and we know that very often, in halachic terms, when a person is silent in a case often that shtika kaidah, we say that the person is admitting to what was just claimed against him. And his silence is an acquiescence. The other type of silence is that a person can't find their voice. A person is so afraid, and therefore they can't speak. But there's a third type of silence, which is the kind of silence that God demanded of Moshe Rabbeinu. When Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, Zu Torah v'zu schara, is this Torah and this is reward, when he saw the horrific death that was happening to Rabbi Akiva, God turned to him and said to him, Shtoik, be quiet. Not because you agree, not because you're afraid, but because now is not a time for words. Now is a time to listen, to watch, to take in the big picture. When you talk, there's too much noise. When you're outputting, you can't bring in. And therefore, in order for you to be able to assimilate and understand, and to bring this in and to do something with this event that's happening, to understand that no matter what you think is happening, Meis Hashem Ha'izazos, from God is coming all of this, then you need to be silent. But for silence to be profound, it needs to be an alternative response. There needs to have been something else that you could have said that you held back. And now your silence becomes incredibly profound. And it becomes a statement in itself. But what else could have Aaron said? What could he have opened his mouth and said to God that his silence now says something so incredible? So the Medrash Pliya asks this question. And the Medrash Pliya says, Mahav leila meimar, what else could he have said? And the Medrash Pliya quotes a pasuk, Ubeyom Shmini yimol b'sar losa, and on the 8th day you will circumcise b'sar loso, the flesh of his arlo. What in the world does Ubeyom Shmini yimol b'sar loso have to do with Aaron's silence? Why could have Aaron had said that to him? Why would that have been something that he could have claimed against God? But God, Ubeyom Shmini yimol b'sar loso, what's it to do with it? So I think we have to understand that there are things that are Doiches Shabbos. Pikuach Nefesh is Doiches Shabbos, saving a life. There are certain communal mitzvos that are Doiches Shabbos. Kiddush HaChodesh, Ktziras HaOmer. But where does Mila fit in? Mila doesn't seem to be Pikuach Nefesh, and Mila is not a communal need. So where does that fit in to be Doiches Shabbos, to push away Shabbos? So we have to ask another question. Avraham Avinu, it says he kept 613 commandments, but the truth is he kept 612 of them until he was commanded to do a Bris Mila. But if Avraham Avinu was keeping all 613 because he intuited and understood that these were important to keep, then why didn't he understand that Mila was also important? Maybe you want to say because it was a self-inflicted wound and Avraham Avinu wasn't interested in hurting himself. No, if he's serving God and he sees this as an act of serving God, then he would have had no problem with doing a Bris Mila. So I saw what's a beautiful teretz that Avraham Avinu understood exactly what the message of Bris Mila is. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us a raw material, and we have to perfect it. we have to take off that orla, and in that we perfect the human being. We bring him into the covenant, we bring him into the bris, and we set a mark on him for the rest of his life to remind him that what is his job here in this world, what is his tafkid, what is his purpose, is to take the material that God has given him to take this world and to perfect this world, to constantly grow it and to constantly elevate it, to make it into something. And that's the whole reason that you're alive. That's the whole reason why you're here. And Mila has a degree of pikuach nefesh. Do the Mila so that this child can save his life, that this child can start to build his life and start to perfect his life and be put on the road to what his entire existence is meant to be. And that is to elevate, to perfect, to grow, to become something amazing, to take a potential and to be able to turn it into something awesome. Maybe that's what the Medrash Pliya means. That Aaron could have turned to God and he could have said to him, Ubiyayim Shmini Yima B'sar Lasa. My kids couldn't have perfected themselves. They couldn't have grown themselves. They couldn't have changed. They couldn't have grown past this mistake that they made. There was nothing that they could have done. That just like on the 8th day, you have to begin that act of perfection. My children were engaged. They could have done something. Perhaps they could have perfected themselves. And that's what Aaron could have said. But Aaron decided to be silent, Vayidam Aaron, because he yielded to Hashem. And he understood that the answer is no. For whatever reason, there was nothing that they could have done, and that they needed to be removed from the world. And Aharon Hakoein opted to take it all in and to affirm Me'es Hashem Oisazos. And we've been doing this. We've been doing this our entire lives, but we have been doing it most profoundly in the past months since Simchas Torah, where we see so many difficult things day by day by day. And Vayidim, we try to find that place inside of ourselves where we would have had a kasha, and we quiet that kasha. And we say to ourselves, Me'es Hashem Ha'isazos. And for me, day by day by day, it becomes more confusing. Every time I see a name and a face of another beautiful child, every time I think about Pesach, and think about sitting around the Seder with my children, with my grandchildren, and realizing how many sons and how many daughters will be sitting without a father to impart to them Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. When I think about the impending dangers that loom for us and the feeling of aloneness that seems to become more profound every day, by Yudam Aaron, I'm reminded to opt for the silence, because in the silence I hear tremendous sounds. Me'es Hashem Ha'isazos. That this is all coming from God. And it's all part of His decree and running of the world. And if we listen carefully, we'll even hear that sound of a Kadosh Baruch Hu saying to us that I know it hurts and I know it's difficult, but I love you, my people. I love you. When we're quiet, we can hear. When we're quiet, we can understand. When we're quiet, we can recognize that only biyachad ninatzeach, that only if we're together with each other and together with the Ribono Shel Olam, only then do we have a chance of emerging from this hole and growing from even such a difficult situation and a difficult moment. B'yachad ninatzeach, when we're together with each other and with God, we're the winners. But we can only be b'yachad if Vayidam Aaron, we're silent, if we listen, if we learn, if we take it all in, and we actualize it in our daily existence. We should be able to renew our strength and renew our understanding and understand the profundity of Vayidam Aaron and be able to hear and to sing and to cry. Me'es Hashem Ha'isazos. I know exactly where this is coming from. I know exactly why it's happening. And I know exactly how to navigate through Stop talking. Listen. Become one with ourselves, one with each other, and one with God. And that's the win. Have a beautiful, amazing Shabbos.